Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Today, 11 p.m. Eastern time, national recap show, whatever. I'm sure many of you know, maybe you don't, whatever, who cares? But I bring it up solely to say it was kind of wild because within minutes of us going on air, we had two teams both ranked in the top 11, both feeling good about their seasons, where they are in the playoff picture, all that good stuff. They both lost within minutes of each other within the same state borders, okay? So Texas A&M gets destroyed by South Carolina, final score 44-20. We're going to talk about that one in a minute, but I want to start and I want to focus with Clemson losing at home 33-21 in a game that transparently I just don't think anybody saw, certainly losing in the manner in which they did. And I do believe this one actually has some bigger picture ramifications for Clemson and their season than maybe a lot of people realize. So let's go ahead and dive in. And listen, we don't have to go through the whole history of Clemson football here, but we know Dabo's been kind of a punching bag over the last couple of years, whatever. I thought he had done a phenomenal job with this particular group. You lose to Georgia the first week of the season, but since then they've basically been lights out. And really specifically, that Garrett Riley offense has really started to take shape and come together, okay? Garrett Riley, Lincoln Riley's brother, hired 2 off seasons ago, struggled a little bit last year. This year, how about this? Prior to Saturday night, of their 7 games, 5 of them, Clemson had scored at least 40 points. They had scored 40 points in every home game this year, which is what made Saturday so freaking shocking. They were able to move the ball, 450 yards of total offense, but they just could not find the end zone. Touchdown early. You missed 2 field goals throughout the course of the game, or 2 field goals blocked, throughout the course of the game. You don't find the end zone until 6 minutes left in the game. Yes, you look at the final score for Clemson, and you sit there and say, okay, they put up 21 points. 14 of them came in the last 6 minutes of the game. Louisville wins. Louisville deserves to win. This isn't a Louisville segment, but congrats to them. They had played a couple really good teams tough this year. The early losses were to top 25 teams, SMU, Notre Dame, and Miami. At the same time, the story here is Clemson, because I just don't think anybody saw that game coming in the manner in which it happened. I think as consequentially, I don't think people realize just how big of a loss this was for Clemson and just how crippling it is for them to make that 12-team playoff. And I know it's still early, and I know there's a lot of football left, but their path to that playoff just got a lot more difficult, okay? Because I think coming into this game, coming into Saturday, there were a lot of people, myself included, that you kind of just looked at the playoff picture in the ACC and you said, okay, Clemson and Miami are going to play for that ACC title. Whoever loses is going to be in. Whoever wins is going to get that first round bye. And it's just, wash, rinse, repeat, get out of here, and let's move on to the next topic. But what I don't think a lot of people realized coming into Saturday, there were actually 4 teams in the ACC that all came into Saturday without a league loss, okay? So tied in the loss column in the conference standings. Clemson and Miami, you know about them, and SMU and Pitt. And so I bring it up because SMU just destroyed Pitt in Dallas, and now you look at those league standings. Guess what? Clemson, even sitting at 1 loss in league play, 6-2 overall, they don't have a direct pathway to the ACC championship game. Now, one thing, side tangent, whatever, this bloated conference scenario, I hate it because the schedule just gets so imbalanced. Because the fact is, Miami, Clemson, and SMU don't play each other throughout the season. So the bottom line is we're not going to get a chance for it to be decided on the field in the regular season. But at the same time, SMU's doing what they have to do. Miami's doing what they have to do. Clemson now needs one of them to lose just to be back in the picture. If both of those teams finish undefeated in the regular season in ACC play, Clemson isn't even going to the ACC championship game. And I'll even take it a step further. I think you could argue that the remaining schedules, Clemson actually has the toughest one out of all of them. Miami has already played 9 games. Their final 3 at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's okay. They're 5-4. Wake Forest is currently not playing very well. They're 4-4 overall. And then at Syracuse. That's Miami's final 3. Now, you could argue Miami struggled to put teams away, whatever. Miami hasn't lost yet. And so until they lose, I'm not going to worry too much about Miami. And then SMU actually probably has an even more manageable schedule, as their final three are Boston College at home, at Virginia, and Cal at home. Clemson, meanwhile, still has 4 games left. They have at Virginia Tech, which ain't going to be easy, at Pitt, which despite the loss on Saturday is still sitting at 7-1, then the Citadel, then South Carolina. And so to me, first of all, I just think they're more likely to take a loss because South Carolina, as we saw on Saturday night, is a really good team. Pitt is tough as well. But the counter to that is, even if they win out, even if they finish 10-2, if they don't make that ACC championship game, do they have a resume? Will they have a resume that is worthy of the college football playoff? I know we hate transitive property. I know there's still a lot of the season left. But if you're looking at Clemson, they're sitting there at 10-2, don't play Miami. They got destroyed by Georgia. And their best win is what? Pitt? Maybe South Carolina. And I like South Carolina. We'll get to them in half a second. But South Carolina, if that's your best win and you're being compared to, say, an Alabama, which also has a win over South Carolina, and LSU, which also has a win over South Carolina, and play much tougher schedules outside of that, I just think it makes it so much more tougher. So listen, I'm not going to get too in the weeds on this. And I'll be honest, I've tried to figure out the scenarios in the ACC championship game. Like, if Miami loses, would Clemson jump them? If Clemson loses, would if SMU loses, would Clemson jump them? I think it's a little hard to say right now. But one, you get to the ACC championship game some way, somehow, you got to win it at this point, right? Because you'll lose a third game. You have a loss to Georgia and either Miami or SMU plus Louisville. That does not look good. But then beyond that, if you don't get into that ACC championship game, I just don't know if you're going to have a resume that really matches up with the teams that you're competing with for those at-large bids. So for Clemson, first things first, you got to win the rest of your games. Period. End of story. And it isn't easy. At Virginia Tech this week, it ain't going to be easy. You can criticize Virginia Tech. They're a little bit disappointing at 5-4, whatever. That's a tough place to play. Then you got to go to Pitt. And then, of course, you got to take care of South Carolina, which is playing great football. We're going to talk about the Gamecocks in a second. But like I said, I just don't think people realize how crushing that loss for Clemson was, because the bottom line is, I think that realistically, their path to the ACC championship game is tough. And if they don't get to the ACC championship game, I think it's going to be tough to get an at-large bid. Tough day for